Welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news nationally. The Hispanic, Latin, and Hispanic communities make up almost 20% of the population. Here in South Florida, we are the largest demographic with over 40% of the population. Even then, our voices are frequently not heard and our faces aren't given enough screen time. That's why tonight, Happening Out Television presents a special Latin takeover of Queer News Tonight. So it's time to queer up the news. It's 8 p.m. Thursday, June 30th, 2022, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Jonathan Casañas. Let's welcome anchor DJ Nena, a homegrown Garden State girl and military veteran who was fascinated with MTV and radio at an early age. DJ Nena's early exposure led her to the entertainment industry. She has been a local DJ and music producer for the LGBTQ community of South Florida for over 20 years. Good evening, DJ Nena.
Wepa! Thank you, mi gente. All right. It's good to be here and to be surrounded by such positive Latino minds. Ya era tiempo. Now, let's welcome anchor Dr. Julio Capo Jr. He is a history professor and the deputy director of the Wolfsonian Public Humanities Lab at the Florida International University. He specializes in history of race relations and immigration in the United States, as well as LGBTQ plus studies. He is an author of the book, Welcome to Fairyland, Queer Miami Before 1940, and curated a new exhibition called Messages from a Pandemic, AIDS Graphic Communication. Good evening, Julio.
Hi, new bestie. And I sound like such a nerd, but I'm going to take all of it. I'm like, oh, that's me. That's right. I am a nerd. Let's welcome Evyn Almanzar, a trans student at J.P. Travella High School, where he recently finished his freshman year. He has been publicly speaking out as an advocate for mental health and queer student rights since the age of 12. Amazing. A lover of writing and nature who often enjoys both at the same time. Yes. Evyn was a member of the Don't Say Gay rally this last February, where he said, quote, on Queer News Tonight, I want to make people hear us as a student body, as well as members of the LGBTQ plus community, and let them know how they can help. Thanks for the work you do. And welcome, Evyn.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Hola. Hola, amiga y amigo. Let's welcome anchor Dino Mosquera. He joined the Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival in the late 90s and now serves on the Outshine Film Festival's board of directors. He is now the screening committee chairman, selecting films for one of America's most important LGBTQ plus film festivals. Welcome, Dino.
Thank you, Evyn. El chamo de la mesa here.
Eso.
Hey, we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, June 30th.
First, let's queer up education. Florida officially declares Don't Say Gay starting tomorrow. The Parental Rights and Education Act, commonly called Don't Say Gay by opponents, takes effect tomorrow, and schools are already getting ready for compliance. The Orange County Teachers Association has reported that teachers were told this week that they had to remove any representation of LGBTQ plus support. Pictures of the teachers' same-sex partners had been taken down, rainbow decorations removed, and any pro-LGBTQ plus posters disposed of. They also been told that if a student comes out to them, they must report it to the parents, and teachers are not allowed to use any pronouns other than those consistent with the gender that the student was assigned at birth. This hurts. This really bothers. We've taken 10 steps back. You initially thought we took 2. No, this is by far the worst thing that has happened to the education system and to the public at large.
You know, and one of the things that we're learning about this is when the law was first introduced, and when we knew that it was going to be transphobic and we knew it was going to be homophobic, but a lot of people didn't exactly know how it was going to play out.
Yep.
And these are now is so vague, and that's one of the many dangers of it, is that it could mean anything. And here are some very concrete examples of how it removes people's dignity, their like respect for themselves, and the way that they understand themselves. Like we're going to learn so much more as this continues to unfold. But this is a nightmare, and it's a form of violence.
This is telling people to go back to the closet. I mean, basically, if you're a teacher and you have a picture of you and your significant other next, on your table like everybody else, you can. So you have to basically, censor yourself, go back to the closet like we were in the 50s. I mean, with so many things that we are, serious things that we have to, debate now. The state of Florida and Ron DeSantis picked this as his battle going into election. It's shameful. It really is.
It is, and I think that it takes us back to what we were trying to fight before, which is more hate crimes, divisiveness, and suicide. Because these children are not going to tell anyone. They're not going to tell their teachers. They're not going to tell their friends. Because the moment the teacher finds out, they have to report it to the parents. And who are you afraid of the most? Your parents.
That's right.
I'm surprised this law even passed at all. I'm still shocked about it. I'm still very ticked about it. Is it Jim Crow 2.0? Is this where we're going? Because that's what it actually feels like.
I don't know what's going on. I'm still in school, so I'm going to see what this is going on, what's going to go on firsthand. Sorry. And this is in Orange County. Not sure what's going to happen in Broward, but I know that if this happens, they're going to be removing so many safe spaces for kids. And we need those safe spaces because so many of my friends, they're not out to their parents. And I was able to help them get their name changed in the school system, and have that ability to help their teachers and communicate their needs. So now what if they're going to expose them to their parents? It's not a safe environment for them. So their safe environment was school. The place they can be themselves was school, around close friends and the people that mattered to them. And now they're removing that for so many kids, and so many kids' mental health is going to crumble. And it's not fair to the teachers either. All of the queer teachers that they're finally like feeling okay. It's like, hey, maybe I can put this picture of me and my partner on my desk. Why do they have to remove that? It's the same way as like, if you think that they're forcing their sexuality on them, why don't you say that to a straight couple as well? I can still see your picture right there. You make out with him in the hall. So like,
100%.
You're forcing it on me.
You're still imposing. 100%.
Let me ask you this. I mean, what about the gay and straight alliance? Is that going to disappear?
That's another big issue. We had a rally at my school for this, and it was hosted by our school's GSA. Jack, he was on the show a few weeks ago. We hosted that. There was a really good turnout, but we're not sure what it's going to do to the GSAs, because GSAs are an after-school organization, so it could end up being that it stays, or it could end up being that they're removing all LGBTQ spaces. So
well, we thank you. We thank you for continuing that fight, Evyn, and don't give up, please.
And as I mean, I don't want to be super cheesy, but as a glimmer of hope in what is a nightmare situation, one of the things that has really emerged from this is how inspired all of us are from the people on the ground. And I mean young people like you and who are leading the way to teach us about the everyday experiences that you are going. And we're so sorry that you have to go through this yet again, and just grateful for your voice and the work that you and others tirelessly do. So just gratitude.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, it's a pain that we have to go through it, but other people have to go through it as well. So we're just going to keep fighting until everyone is equal.
That would be the way to do it. Let's go ahead and queer up gay culture. AOC blasts fellow Dems who won't use Latinx. But does the Latin community care? Watch this.
Also, in the spirit of pride, I wanted to have a note on gender inclusivity in Spanish language. People sometimes like to make a lot of drama over the term Latinx, but even before Latinx, people were trying to do this, like, use an at to have the A and the O together. Gender is fluid, language is fluid, and I think people right now are using the E term as gender neutral in order to be as inclusive as possible. Don't have to make drama over it. I also have a mini rant about this because there are some politicians, including Democratic politicians, that rail against the term Latinx. And they're like, this is so bad. This is so bad for the party, like blah, blah, blah. And like, it's almost as though it has not struck some of these folks that another person's identity is not about your reelection prospects. Like, this is not about you. Second of all, if putting a little X on your campaign literature is what you think is the difference between winning or losing an election, you need to talk about healthcare more. You need to raise people's wages. You need to talk about more issues that also matter to people. That being said, why are people opting for trying to use Latina over Latinx? Well, Latinx can be convenient in written form because you just put down an X and people can kind of mentally put in whatever vowel they identify with. But it's kind of hard to say. So Latine, you avoid the masculine O, you avoid the feminine A. Latina, E, is a little more neutral, so it could be more inclusive to people. For example, saying nosotres. That being said, if you don't want to use it, no one's forcing you to. But for people who enjoy trying to figure out language and have it meet the modern age, that's kind of where it's at.
U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is well known for her outspoken manner and her desire to connect with the most marginalized communities. Recently, while attending legislative sessions in Puerto Rico, AOC did a series of Instagram live broadcasts where she discussed everything from Taino heritage and how the Puerto Rican community has helped build her home district of the Bronx to the ways that the Spanish language has changed over the years. While the term Latinx first started popping up online in 2004, it wasn't until after the events of Pulse that it gained popularity. A poll done last year by Politico, however, shows that only about 2% of people use the term to identify themselves. Now, I would actually opt to say I don't use Latinx. I do hear it used often enough that I'm okay with it. I'm certainly not opposed to it. If you're okay and you want to use Latinx, go ahead and use Latinx. I think it's more of a generational thing. I think it has everything to do with, you might be of a younger generation. So Latinx might feel more appropriate to you. I'm a little bit of an older generation. I'm still a Latina. I'm a Boricua. I can give myself a million different, names, but nothing wrong with using Latinx.
I do think that, there is a word. We have a word, and it's called Latin. Yeah. And it's gender not specific. You're not masculinizing it, femininizing it. It's gender neutral. Right. I'm all for, and let me preface this saying, I'm all for using the pronouns that everybody chooses to be addressed as completely. It's wrong for people to ban in the workplace something just because it's not convenient to you. That I don't support. Agreed. But we have a word, it's Latin. So, and we have another word, it's Hispanics. You may be one, that's a different conversation. If you want to be a Latin or a Hispanic, get it. But I probably, because like you, I'm not as hip, I guess. I'm not as young and fresh like you. I'm probably more of a, and I wasn't born in this country. So this is also one of those things that people that grew up in a Hispanic or Latin community in Latin America and learn Spanish as a native language feels different than somebody that is first or second generation Hispanic or Latino in this country, I think. But the Spanish is a rich language with, a set of rules. We do have gender, conjugation. Yeah, of course we do.
That's just language.
I get it, yeah. But we have a word for that, is Latin. So why are we getting into this I mean, I admire her in many ways. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I think this is a battle that we need to invest our energies in other things that are more pressing for our community. This is just, if you ask the vast majority of Latinos in this country, they don't give a crap about
They
that.
don't. And I
Trust
think,
me, no one does.
if I remember correctly, or how it struck me, was that a lot of these politicians were using it to their benefit. They were using it for the votes. They decided to pander to the audience that they thought were going to get the votes. And this happened back when the word Hispanic came about, Hispanic or Latin. And they just wanted to make sure that they were catering to that demographic for that vote, because when it came to it, Hispanic didn't come from Ronald Reagan, but he decided to call it that because he wanted the votes for those Mexican Americans who came to this country, and he wanted to pander to them. And that's just the tea. So now they want to pull back, and she's like, who cares? Just call them what they want to be called. You don't have to pander to them for the sake of the vote.
Why does it affect them anyway?
It doesn't
'Cause,
affect them.
You guys saying
This is dividing.
Yeah, no,
This is
because they're
what it is.
they're younger generations, and I have heard Latinx, but most of my friends that
don't
are
use that.
Hispanic or Latino, they just say Latina, Latino, like myself.
Yeah.
Hispanic, Latino. It doesn't really matter that much.
I mean, language is fluid. I have to say, I stan AOC in general. I think she's really good at kind of processing really difficult things and putting
Making
them in
simpler.
plain language and simpler.
Yeah.
And like, her point here is like, use it if you like it, and don't use it if you don't like it,
Yeah.
and like,
No one's
and
gonna force it.
respect people's wishes. And I think that's powerful. I mean, I think since Hispanic, like you could trace almost the origins of this, like when Hispanic
Yeah.
appears in the census in 1980. Like there's moments where we can kind of see how different language changes over time. I personally, I use like when I talk about myself, I say I use Latino, right? But I don't identify as a Latinx person.
Right.
But if I'm talking about a broader community, out of respect for people who might, I think what I'm suggesting is that one of the things that it's done, and I think everyone here has said that in one way or another, is that it's made us hyper aware of the gendered language that we use on a day-to-day basis. The way that we kind of assume things are either masculine or feminine, and it's kind of made us question these day-to-day uses of these things. And at the very least, agree with it or disagree with it, it's made us kind of think about them in different ways, in ways that might be really productive.
Right, but in a language like Spanish, where we do use gender-specific words, I understand that if you don't want to, say everything is first male and then rule it out and then it's female. No, I get it. But even in Latin America, Latinos or Hispanics, this is not a debate.
Right.
This is a debate in the United States,
largely.
largely in the Latino community, or I'm sorry, I'm as progressive as it comes. I'm as liberal as it comes. It's a woke subject. It's not an issue in Latin America. This is something that they don't debate. There is not a box that we check. Are you Hispanic or are you Latino? Or are you Latina? Or
It's already confusing enough. I can't even get the Spanish language right. I used to say la sofá instead of el sofá. I didn't know where to begin. My grandma used to slap me 10 times over. It's too confusing. Let's just call people what they want to be called and move on.
Right, and
Simple.
stop the division,
Yeah.
right? Let's not divide our community. That's exactly the point.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it, and then there's another aspect of there are people trying to change the entire language.
Mm-hmm.
Language was created over hundreds of years, so changing the little tiny differences, tweaking them of the different languages and dialects, that's going to take a really long time. And I understand why there are people trying to do that, because they're trying to be more inclusive to gender nonconforming people. And I do have friends that are also like, they're non-binary or they're gender fluid, and they're just like, I don't really connect to my Latino or Hispanic side because of this.
Yeah.
Which
I see the
is-
point.
right. So
That's a
something-
valid point.
It's something to look into, but it's also like, it's not as big as a thing that the
Language
government
is
is making it
powerful.
seem.
It'll
you
always
said-
be
and like
ever
you said,
changing.
And like you said,
Yeah.
language changes.
Yeah.
So, and there is a word, for example, empoderamiento. That is a word I never learned, that I grew up with, and I was educated in Spanish. This is something that came from, English, then, morph into Spanish. And then I questioned that at one point, and somebody told me, no, that is a word now in Spanish,
Right.
empoderamiento,
Right.
which I thought was completely wrong, but it's because it's empowering,
right.
Yeah.
But we never use that, but now it is commonly used. So we have to be open that, the language will evolve.
Thank you to Urban Dictionary.
right.
All right, let's move on.
Let's queer up gay culture. June Pride 2022 closes. here are our thoughts. This past month has been a Pride Month for the history books. In echoes of the 1960s, LGBTQ+ rights have been under attack in states across the country. Pride this month became a fight for visibility and rights unlike any that Americans have seen in recent generations. I mean, the last few weeks, months, years in my head, feels like we're just constantly just coming up for air for you know, whatever we can is thrown at us. I mean, I think there's a lot of truth to this, and we're seeing, I mean, that is, I agree with this. I mean, whether it's reproductive rights or LGBTQ rights, as we think about the changes in the EPA, all these things, I'm thinking about as I read the news this morning, it feels like we are all under attack all the time, and that this has been a strange year.
Well, especially now with Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
I think it's going to affect us. That trickle down really is going to harm us, and I think people are realizing that. And we've been talking about this for years, and I feel like Pride has become more of a celebration and more of a thought process as to a fight that we're going to have in the very, very near future.
In Spanish, we have a say that says, "Cuando veas la barba de tu vecino arder, pon la tuya en remojo." That means, just to translate
please
for our
translate.
audience, that means if you see the beard of your neighbor go up in flames,
And then they
put
came
yours
for
in
you.
water. This is a message to our community. We have to be vigilant now because they're coming for us. This is just very, very well signaled by Clarence Thomas already that we're going to be next.
Of course.
And not next here. Like, it's happening
It's
right now.
happening,
Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
it's
yes.
not like, you know, reproductive rights, for example, like Roe v. Wade being struck down, of course, affects the LGBT, you know, whether it's all of us. That is, we can't get into this fight later. We're in this fight now. And I mean, all these laws, there's just so much that's happening that affects us as a community, right? Like, that is all, as in a community, I mean, the human species that we're embroiled in.
That's the thing. A lot of people,
Yeah.
like, there are different titles that you can use, whether it's reproductive rights, women's rights,
Right.
queer rights. It's all human rights.
That's right.
It's all very dividing. And one way to really look at it, and that everyone matters. So it's human rights. And everything's going to happen at its own pace. Con paciencia y fe. Con paciencia y fe.
Right, but it's also the right to privacy, you see, and this is what's most dangerous, because not only they're going to come after, you know, the sodomy laws and things that we thought were completely over. Now we have to be aware. Well, they may come into, you know, my bedroom and see and check who I'm having sex with.
Yeah.
Or if you took birth control in the privacy of your home.
Exactly.
That kind of thing, that is dangerous. That's very dangerous. This is what we're facing now. And gay pride is a signal here. We are celebrating, but we have to be vigilant because this is coming for our community.
And I'll finish by saying this. I mean, I know, you know, not 2 years ago, we were worried about the number of law enforcement during New York Pride and whether they were going to inhibit, you know, our rights during Pride. I last week was in Toronto Pride, and when I tell you that it was the most loveliest, happiest celebration I had ever been a part of, it really showed a difference between America, between the United States of America and Canada. And I think everyone should experience that so they can see the difference as to how free and how loving they are and how safe they feel in the streets compared to we do when we're in New York.
My
That's
gosh.
powerful.
We just like all move up to Canada.
All right, Evan.
That's for you.
Maybe move to Canada. I don't know, man.
That's what I heard.
Now it's time to queer up South Florida and Florida. Is all Latino LGBTQ+ the same? South Florida, Cuban Americans, and other Latino American communities explored. South Florida is one of the rare areas of the U.S. that is known as a majority-minority population, meaning that people of minority descent outnumber white people. The Latin community here in South Florida is one of the largest demographics. As you can see around this table tonight, so many members of the community have diverse backgrounds and histories. What parts of our unique communities are the same? What parts are different? This evening, our anchors explore this conversation.
Just a small question.
Where to begin, Venezuela?
Just
I mean, you know, And this is good that we are all sitting around the table now because we come from different backgrounds within. For America, for the common America, for the America at large, say outside Florida, that tends to look at us like we are all like the same thing, and they caught us by the same.
Not.
We are
same.
not. We're very different, and it comes to sometimes to clash, even within our community, in communities even like South Florida, which even within Florida is very different. As you know, I mean, growing up Cuban here with more of a tradition here that probably the Venezuelan community where I'm from, or Colombians or Mexicans or Brazilians, we come with different issues here. Yeah. There's so many issues that, that play into our community. Colorism is one of them.
Yeah, of course.
So the same as, the Indians deal with in India, the darker you are, the less, and we don't like to talk about this, but we
within
need to talk up within our community, like this kind of thing that, many people use.
Yeah.
That kind of racism within our community, we have to air our own dirty clothes. So this is one of the things that we have to deal with. And it gets, because like what I said before, when you come to this country, you have to check a box. In Latin America, you don't have to do that. Right. We're all Latinos. Yes, there is racism in Latin America. I will be a fool if I don't acknowledge that. But when it comes here is when you really get smashed in the face with that, and within our own community. So
because they don't realize the moment you leave Florida, like we're on our own, and we fight amongst our own communities. Because let me tell you something, I'm first generation born here. My parents are Cuban. My great grandparents are from Spain. Migrated to Cuba, migrated to Miami, and they still act like they own this place. And they don't realize the moment they leave South Florida, no one likes you. So it's interesting that there is clash between Venezuelans, between Mexicans, when the reality is that we should stick together, because the rest of this country is not looking at us like we belong.
Exactly.
This whole, so I'm also Cuban, Cuban descent, born in Miami in that way too. And I feel like I had never been called a spick until I left Miami. Like that is like, I had never even heard that word until I had left this, this space, this South Florida space. The idea of specifically in this, what does minority majority or majority minority mean in South Florida? That is, it could actually change the tables a lot. Because I mean, what does that mean to whether it's the urban power that Cuban Americans have historically had in the space for decades, or for incoming, the different treatment between Haitians and Cubans in our immigration system, so on and so forth. It does change what it means to be able to access certain resources, and of course we're going to have 1,000 different experiences. We're not a monolith.
It's also really weird because they're in some areas, like I'm white passing, and in some areas I'm not. So it's like very constant of like, where do I go? Because I'm not hood enough for my friends, for my black friends. And I also don't understand the level of entitlement from my white friends. So it's like, where do I fit in? But I've still been like walking down the halls in like my middle school, and they're like, yo, you got some weed? I'm like,
you know what?
I literally been told to go back to Mexico. I'm not even Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican. So it's like, it's that weird aspect of it's like, where do I really fit in? And when you're not like putting it out there that you're Hispanic, you still like identify those other Hispanic people. And it's just, it's freeing, but also really confusing and trapping at the same time.
I'd like to piggyback off of your comment of trying to figure out where you actually fit in this Latino unit, Latinx unit. I don't know. I will say this. My parents are Puerto Rican, born and raised in Puerto Rico. I was born in the United States. I was raised in the Northeast. I was called a spick in the Northeast, okay? But here's the crack up. I was raised around every different kind of Latino. So I knew people from El Salvador, people from Colombia, people from Dominican Republic, Cubans. We were all raised together. So growing up around that community was kind of like, oh, cool, we're all Latin, we're all Spanish, it's all the same. Okay, great, fantastic. Then I moved to South Florida, where I came down and said, "Oh, you are Puerto Rican? No, we're Colombian. We don't hang out with you." And then I actually, and it was very, it was very weird
Very
because
segregated.
because I
segregated
didn't.
space.
I never understood what that was. That made no sense to me. It was very confusing. And then to add an extra bit of fun to this little story, when I travel to Puerto Rico and visit my family, I get out of the airport, I grab a cab, and I'll tell the cab, "Hey, this is where I want to go. Are you Puerto Rican?" "Well, yes, I am." And he's like, "Well, no, you're not Puerto Rican because you're not from here. You're a New York Rican." Does that make me less Rican? I'm trying to understand my percentage of Rican.
At least I'm Rican, period.
Yeah.
He's like, "But you don't speak the way we speak." And I said, "Because the difference is that I actually have an education."
Yeah.
Sorry. That's the only way I could combat against my own people being, against me.
Yeah, and I
very
think
weird.
a lot of it here, specifically in South Florida, is the way we got here. Because of mass exodus from Cuba and the caravan and all these types of different ways that we got here. There's a lot of judgment and self-empowerment where some Latinos think they deserve to be here and they feel like others don't.
Yes.
There's another thing within that phenomenon that catches my attention, and there is a lot of us that come from countries. I mean, we are really a melting pot in Latin America. There is the whitest to the darkest and everything in between, right? We come from that. But a lot of us come here from countries, and you may be the whitest in Latin America, but when you come here, they place you because, like I said, they put you in a box. You are Latino, but then some of those whitest people in Latin America come to America and then find a common denominator with the white supremacy and then start voting, with the Republican and the extreme right. They find more commonality with them than with their own Latino community. I have an issue with that.
That's weird.
So
because they feel like they're going to have their rights taken away.
That's right.
Right? Even though we're all the same, or we all have the same kind of history, and the reasoning as to why we left our country of origin. Some were here first, and now we're going to have less resources for those who are already here.
I played
You put
in a
it together
sports team.
eloquently, by the way.
That was
Thank
really
you.
wow,
well said.
me eloquent.
That was very
Jesus.
well said.
Thank you.
I played on a sports team a few years ago, and one of our teammates used to call me and a bunch of, not me specifically, but a group of us who are all the Latinos used to call us the Mexicans. And it was, and none of us were from Mexico, right? Like, that is like, there was someone from Nicaragua,
They do that, though.
and and we kind of all spoke, and we were like, because we focus so heavily on what divides us, but also what brings, we do have lots of commonalities, and like, some of it is language and culture, and of course there's other languages that make people Latino, like that is indigenous languages and Latin.
Sure.
Like, also, but there are things that generally do bring a lot of us together, and those are things that are powerful and part of what makes us. No, I'm looking at my hand here.
I'm still
Yeah, we should all focus
and-
on we're the same kind of suppression or oppression that we're all feeling, and we should stick together and fight against that, and maybe we can make more things happen.
Maybe, it's like I may not understand certain things you say in that Spanish because it's from a different area.
Yeah.
But we still get the
we
point.
got it.
We still get the
We
point,
got it.
Okay.
All right, Dino.
All
let's move
right,
on.
let's clear up health. AIDS, the Unheard tapes included in moving new documentary. Frequently, the HIV/AIDS crisis is discussed solely in terms of the U.S. crisis and former President Reagan's reaction. This week, BBC released a documentary series about the AIDS crisis in the United Kingdom. The show focuses on a series of recordings of men who lived through the crisis as they discuss their struggles, fears, and dealing with the stigma. AIDS, the Unheard tapes, is available on BBC Two or on a BBC iPlayer. Watch this.
Next, we report on our partnership.
No, we didn't get to
We're
talk
gonna-
about it.
Well, we want to talk about it. I'll see y'all later.
I'm waiting
That's
for
it.
Dr.
We're not
Julio
talking
to
about
say
that.
something about it.
Yeah, let's
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, I don't have anything super insightful outside of that looks amazing. I'm really excited to see it. And I have one of the really important things about HIV/AIDS, right, is that like we talk about coronavirus, we're talking about different pandemics, is how important that we understand that pandemics, of course, are global, and that they cross borders and we do focus too heavily on the United States. Since it's a Latino takeover, I'd love to see more on the work in Latin America and the Caribbean. But one of the great things too that I love about this show is I didn't know about this documentary, and I now can't wait to watch it.
But these are tapes that were in a library in the UK that were basically made into a documentary recently. They were sitting there for years.
Wow.
We just didn't know.
Yeah, I mean they were just sitting there. Nobody made an effort to put them into a documentary. I think you guys saw It's a Sin?
Yeah, yeah.
On HBO last
Yeah,
year.
you should watch it.
Which is an
It's great,
amazing with Ollie Alexander, amazing series,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And it opens our eyes here in the U.S. I arrived here when the AIDS crisis was hitting America big time in the late 80s, mid 90s, when things were really, really serious. And I work in HIV research back in that time. So you always get the America perspective, right? We are used to watch this on TV, different documentaries. We are, unfortunately, because of the issues at the time, ACT UP, the Reagan policies, and the things that we had to fight, the FDA to get all these drugs approved. You think that this is an American phenomenon, but it's not.
Of course.
The British were going through it. I saw a documentary recently during the film festival in Miami, our film festival, from the Brazilian point of view, which is something that is very refreshing. They were going through the same issues at the same scale as we were going through here, but we don't see their point of view.
Yeah.
You see, this is it's important, and even a country as wealthy and as advanced as the UK was struggling. Yeah. You see it in It's a Sin. There is a scene in the series in the beginning with one of them basically has to travel. He was infected with HIV. He couldn't find anything in the health system in London, even in London, and he travels to New York to get pamphlets that were actually describing ACT way back when. And he took it back to London and gave it to his friends, and they started discussing that. That's how they, even in the UK, I mean, this is the UK, probably, almost at the same level as the American health system. Imagine in Brazil or in Cuba. Or in Venezuela.
In Cuba, they would put them in hospitals and just let them die away and keep them away from the general population.
They did that in Puerto Rico,
They called
too.
it gay cancer.
Yeah, they just. I think this is a cool documentary, and it's a great point that we should really see and learn about other countries and what they went through, because it's going to be a lot more shocking than we think.
It's also going to make a lot of people feel less alone.
And when you
it's
see,
not just a single experience.
and when you see that we're going now through something that hopefully will not get to that scale, but monkeypox. That you see monkeypox being addressed also in terms of how it's affecting the gay community. This is what happened back in the 80s, in the mid 80s, when the AIDS crisis came about, and they started calling the gay plague. And obviously monkeypox can give it to anyone. But it's spreading in our community. We have to be aware of these things and hopefully prevent another situation of what we had in the mid 80s and early 90s with AIDS in our community.
I also, it's just, as you said that, it reminded me, and this is such a nerdy thing to say, but I'm going to say it again because I feel like it's so important. But I also, to talk to people, that is, as we think about, it's now 4 decades, right? And of course, AIDS is not over. And one of the things that we often, we've lost so many people already, but there's still a lot of people around who have stories to tell. For so long, the field of history, for example, didn't see AIDS as something worth studying because it was for 1,000 reasons, but also it felt like a recent too recent and not too ongoing. But we're losing people all the time who have really incredible and important stories that haven't been recorded, who otherwise would be erased from our textbooks, like the Don't Say. That is, like, there's so many efforts to erase us. We can't erase us, right? Like, we need to make sure that we get people's voices.
It's also good that they're putting all this stuff out there because it's not taught in history books. It's not even mentioned. Like, hundreds of thousands of people are dying.
That's crazy to me.
And during this time, and a huge marginalized community is going through so much pain.
That's right.
And it's just
you won't even learn about it.
Not
You didn't live
blinders
the
on.
80s or the 90s. You were not alive.
No, I very much was not
But
alive.
it should still be taught.
Right.
I should still-
right,
it
needs to be
right?
taught.
It needs to
Like,
be taught.
luckily, like, I see all these things through personal research, but there's some people out there who don't go.
No.
out of
These
their
are things that we can compare them to, and there are ways that we can avoid monkeypox because we learned from the AIDS epidemic.
Yeah.
Even COVID, we could have, we could have used that to learn. So let's learn from our mistakes and keep teaching each other these things. Let's move on, DJ.
Well, and just one little final note. In regards to that documentary, I will say this. You have to give credit to the technology because we didn't have the technology
That's right.
back then
That's a good point.
to be able to transfer all of this very vital, important information. I'm an audio engineer and I also work with podcasting. We need more people to step up and keep talking, keep telling the stories so that the ones behind us can continue to learn and progress. But let's go ahead and report on our partnership with Sunshine
Now you
Cathedral. Now that I can.
Yes.
The world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ+ religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
G'day everyone, I'm Australian cellist James Clark, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Right?
We finished tonight's queer news headlines with what we call LGBTQ flash news.
All right, I'm scrolling. LGBTQ plus flash news. LGBTQ plus lawmakers win primaries in 3 states. This week saw primaries in Illinois, Colorado, Oklahoma, and Utah. Eric Sorensen won his Democratic primary in Illinois, putting him on track to become the first LGBTQ plus lawmaker in the state. In Colorado, incumbent gay Governor Jared Polis won his primary unopposed. And Colorado's first transgender representative, Brianna Titone, also kept the Democratic nomination for her re-election run. In Oklahoma, non-binary lawmaker Representative Mauree Turner beat their challenger in the Democratic primary. And in Utah, Senator Derek Kitchen currently leads his opponent in the primary. I mean, this is more than anything, as the news we've reported today suggests, we need more LGBTQ lawmakers. So please continue to run and please continue to support them.
Yeah, it's sad to see that the one Democrat that was attacked by Marjorie Taylor Greene lost her election. This is sad, and it tells you we need to, step up.
Yeah.
Yep. We need more queer lawmakers to protect the queer people and the queer kids.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with everyone. I mean, obviously, what's been happening with Roe versus Wade, we obviously need more representation. So get out there, please.
And please don't forget to vote. That is the most important thing. Show up at the polls. That's what's going to help us.
Yep.
Now we've got LGBTQ plus flash news. Watch this gay couple get engaged at Major League Soccer match. Watch this. It's rare that gay guys and soccer go in the same sentence, but there are plenty of sports fans in the LGBTQ plus community. A gay couple has gone viral recently after they got engaged last weekend at a soccer match between the Los Angeles Football Club and the New York Red Bulls. Taylor proposed to Max on the field, and the two trans men received support from an unlikely source when the Major League Soccer Twitter account shared a video of the proposal to their 3.3 million followers. How awesome is that? I want to get blown up on Twitter, but no one's asking to marry me yet.
No, be careful. I might do it negatively.
I love everything about this. And just to kind of, I feel like as you read, that you don't normally think about soccer or other sport. I find this so homoerotic, all these faces. I think a lot of us did. So many of us had our very first fantasy.
It's like, yes.
And just recent one,
Just
too.
there we go.
No, and I think that's exactly where it should happen. You know, one of the most probably homophobic places is a stadium. Well, you know, show up and, you know, give us a space to celebrate our love too. Like, straight people have been doing it for years and years.
Yeah.
We have the same right, so good for you.
Makes my gay little heart so happy.
Yeah.
Like, can I have that, please?
Aw.
Like, when's my turn?
Yeah, and shout out to that Major League Soccer Twitter account that did that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge, and obviously it wouldn't have gotten to 3.3 million, so that's really important.
You hear lesbians in soccer, but
That's kind of true.
Ham.
All right, LGBTQ plus flash news. Ricky Martin teases fans, and they are literally ready to play.
Yes, ma'am.
Ricky Martin is teasing his fans, and we're here for it. He has already released 3 singles from his upcoming EP, Play. And on Monday, he posted a picture from the set of the new video for the as of yet unnamed 4th single. Jesus, sorry, I just caught a glimpse of the photo. The photo shows shirtless with a sleeve harness, which is very me, as he holds on to gymnast rings. Gymnast rings. The photo is captioned, "In this photo, a little tease of what the video of my next single is going to feel like." Sorry, I got feel like. Back to his quote. "It was a really long day, but everything flows amazingly well when surrounded by the right group of people. Nothing but love and light throughout the day. The energy felt strong, ... Get ready for #play, end quote." He's got me in the feels. I'm normally not a Ricky Martin guy,
He's
but
stuttered.
him in a harness and some, what are they called again? Those rings?
rings.
Anything with rings on them, I'm here for it.
Listen,
Hey, yo.
Ricky Martin, yesterday, today, tomorrow, and beyond. I love you, Papi.
Same. I mean, like fine wine. I just saw him and Enrique in concert a few months ago, and he was amazing. Feels.
Feels amazing.
Súbete a mi moto. Remember? So that picture brought me back to that. There was a soap opera, okay, Menudo, and he was so young and cute back then. But this Ricky Martin, anytime, baby, anytime, daddy.
I'll say he went from Ricky to Daddy.
That's right.
I don't know, man. You guys, you old fogies over there.
Ah!
Drooling all over him. So
Blasphemy.
I know.
I mean, he's attractive, I guess.
He is fine, girl.
Oh my God, I feel old. For the
boy,
first time, I feel old.
So sorry, man.
Oh, Evan.
Ay, Dios mío.
All right.
Yeah.
Keep it moving, Evan.
Yeah,
Young kids
Lenny-
today.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, LGBTQ plus flash news. Veep Harris hosts historic LGBTQ plus Pride reception. On Tuesday, Vice President Kamala Harris made history when she hosted an LGBTQ plus Pride Month reception at her home for the first time a VP has ever done so. The reception was attended by about 190 LGBTQ plus politicians and celebrities. Attendees included Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, maybe, I don't know, and Jessica Stern, the State Department's Special Envoy for LGBTQ plus rights. The event was kicked off with a speech by RuPaul's Drag Race star Shangela, who said, quote, "When I got the call for the office of the VP, and they said, Shangela, and I said, what? And they said, Shangela, would you like to handle the welcome for the evening? And I said, well, Let me run over to my closet and pull out my white suit and my white hat and my best Olivia Pope voice. I told them, it's handled, end quote.
Love that.
I mean, this is amazing. Like, we knew Kamala Harris was, like, cool, but this is, like, a new level. So, like, go off.
Yeah, we knew when Shangela handed her that clap fan and taught her how to do the shawap.
That's right.
We knew she was going to do this. So shout out to Shangela and to the Veep.
All right, y'all. I love Kamala Harris, and yes, she fine too. Yeah.
Also, I want more of her. I find like she's hidden. Like that is, I don't.
True.
I want her perspective on everything. Less of Biden and much more of the Harris. But I want only her perspective.
Should we just, like, promote her to president?
You see, this is the good thing about, Kamala Harris and her husband, to be fair. They are putting out the word and they are supportive and they're not afraid to show it. We need them in our community, so.
Great.
Now, LGBTQ plus flash news. Miami Beach goes all LGBTQ plus rainbow with Lifeguard stand ceremony. Miami Beach just got a little bit gayer. Just this evening at 6 p.m., the city unveiled a new rainbow Lifeguard stand at a special dedication ceremony. The stand is located on 12th Street and the beach near the Rainbow Crosswalk at the end of Loomis Park. Commissioner Alex Fernandez said, quote, "I am proud to live in a city like Miami Beach that celebrates diversity in all its beautiful forms and welcomes everyone to its shores. The new Rainbow Lifeguard stand at our popular gay beach will quickly become an Instagrammable icon portraying to the world that we are indeed a safe and welcoming destination for the entire LGBTQIA plus community. I am thankful to the city manager, Hudak, and her team for making this a reality." I was there last weekend, and I just took a picture in front of the Lifeguard.
Show the camera. Show the camera.
Yes.
Yes, all
And a lot of
right.
people were taking their picture
look so
in front of that.
Don't scroll that phone. Don't change.
Okay,
that.
yeah.
I was actually. So this
Scandal. Scandal.
I was afraid of that.
Yeah.
I mean, see, they got all hip and cool with the rainbows, and then they said Instagrammable. That's all I'm going to say. But it's cool.
You know what? Miami Beach continues to be progressive. They continue to show us what's up and show us a lot of love, unlike Surfside.
That's right.
So someone needs to learn from Miami Beach. So shout out Miami Beach.
Shade.
All right, agreed, 1,000% with you on that. Yeah, Surfside not helping us at all. However, though, I'm looking forward to seeing the first, lesbian lifeguard on that, hanging out at that port. I want to
Yes.
take pictures with her. I love our flag, but if there's a sexy, lesbian, lifeguard,
There is one.
I'm down.
What else to say other than I love this? I was also in South Beach this week. Patrick and I got a room at the Gathering. We spent
there
the
you
night.
go.
And I also just there's so many things we could do to make Miami Beach gayer than it used to be, or the gayer like affordable housing. I feel like I'm always that person who's obnoxious, but
No,
but it's
true.
really there's lots of really
True.
important things we could do, and I think this is an important step too. So
right.
I love seeing more of this.
Absolutely. Now, that is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and your family.
Post this broadcast in the many groups you are a member of. Tonight's story is about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Jonathan Casañas, and on behalf of these spectacular LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including DJ Nena, Dr. Julio Capo Jr., Evyn Almanzar, and Dino Mosquera. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. Good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure